Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Libby Reads with David Allan-Petale. Of course, I'm David Allan-Petale. And sorry we're a little late. This is a brand new system that we're using. And thank you to everybody in the chat for your tips on how we can actually get in. Can everybody hear us? Can everybody see us? Anyway, if you just jump in the chat and give me a Y, then we shall be able to crack on. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Lots of whys.
Great start. This is a great start. Okay, my name's David Allan-Petale. This is Libby Reads. It's the new name for the Libby Book Club. We're doing it, but it's a new year technically. New beginnings. Let's go. So it's great to have your company here tonight. First, I just want to acknowledge I'm broadcasting tonight from the traditional lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. Pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. And of course, this club is based here in Perth, WA, where I am, but we go across Australia. So welcome to everybody wherever you're joining. And my guest tonight is Lisa Ellery for her new book, Hot Ground. Lisa, it's great to have you with us. How you going?
I'm going great. Thanks, David. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And of course, this is all brought to us by Overdrive, the great people at Libby, and the State Library of WA. So if you want to participate in the chat tonight, jump in the chat. If you have a question for Lisa on anything to do with Hot Ground, her legal career, Kalgoorlie, even her previous book, Private Prosecution, jump in the chat and ask. We're not limiting anything. There are a few twists and turns within Hot Ground, so we're going to try not to do too many spoilers, but it's hot ground, so you never know. So, Lisa, can you just to kick us off, can you give us a bit of a taste of what hot ground is all about? Because I know there's people joining us tonight who've read, maybe there's people halfway through, or people who are tempted to read. But what's the story all about?
Well, it is a crime thriller, and it's based essentially in Kalgoorlie, which is where I live and work. And it follows the story of a prospector who heads out to peg a mining lease in the middle of the night. That's when they have to be done if there's competition for the ground, and disappears. So it's basically a police procedural. It follows the protagonist is Jessie Parkin, who's a police detective, and she is on the trail to find out what's happened to this prospector.
Well, Lisa, there's so many standout characters, Jesse amongst them, but the atmosphere that you create amongst all the technical details, not just of the investigation, but also the prospecting details. Can you tell us a bit about how prospecting works? Because I was amazed at almost it's like an honor system. It's like cray pots. You know that it's highly technical, lots of competition, but it's really just somebody with a GPS in the middle of the night with a peg.
Yeah, well, I guess it's like it's an honor system in the sense that people can, if they wind up going to court over it, can just say they were there with the peg and they just weren't. But it's like anything, judges and magistrates are always trying to work out whether people are telling the truth or just lying, and this is just no different. The warden does the same job in the warden's court, tries to work out whether they were really there or not, just based on how they present in the court. So you're always best to just be telling the truth, and that's what my missing man was intending to do. So he was intending to be out there, do it all properly.
And when we meet Max Cochran, he's out there with his trusty old Land Cruiser. What's he doing? Can you tell us about the pegging and what Max was trying to do?
Yeah, so a mining tenement is basically just a right to prospect on a particular area of ground, and they sort of last for a certain period of time and then they expire. So when they expire, anyone can come and peg that ground and make it theirs. So you don't have to pay anything. If you go and peg it and do it all properly, that ground will become yours. So usually, when you want to go and peg some ground, you just head out there whenever you feel like it. But sometimes there is ground that, for whatever reason, hasn't been explored, or hasn't been exploited, as they say, but it's actually got some potential value. And then everybody who's interested in, because tenements expire at midnight on the day of their expiry, everyone who's interested in picking up that ground will head out there in the middle of the night to try and secure it. So obviously, everyone who works in this industry or lives in Kalgoorlie already knows that that's just like an awesome like start to a book. So I just thought, oh well, someone's got to do it.
But it is a great start to a book. It's a lot more action packed than like I don't know, somebody at an auction outside a house or something like that. It's yeah,
Yeah, it was just like
yeah,
it just has to be midnight. That's when
yeah.
it all happens on the stroke of midnight. People are trying to peg these tenements within the first second or two after midnight to make sure that they're the first.
Yeah.
So
Lisa, you're a lawyer in Kalgoorlie.
yep,
Over the years, have you seen this rise in prospecting? I mean, gold's $2,000 an ounce. When I was out in Kalgoorlie as a journo years ago, and it was $200 an ounce.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So then that was considered big. Yeah.
just crazy. It's just gone up and up and up. But I don't think that's meant any difference in the enthusiasm for prospecting. People have always had gold fever, and they always will. There's always been plenty of people interested in pursuing it, and the fact it is actually a really difficult thing to do. It's not the sort of thing that anyone could just go and do. You'd have to really know what you're doing to do it successfully. It sounds easy, but it's just not easy at all. Notwithstanding the gold price, I think most people just wouldn't go there. It's just too hard.
But what can you tell us about Max Cochran? Because he is that sort of guy that he knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. He's
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a long time, and his father did it before him and taught him how to do it. So, yeah, he knew what he's doing. Yeah,
and when Max is out there, something happens to him. He's gone missing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep. And there's a few clues about what that might be, but yeah, um, we always think. There's competition, so everyone out there is trying to get the same land. You don't have to be banging a peg into the exact same spot. Everyone will try and bang their peg into a slightly different spot, just so because otherwise they're just going to be a fist fight.
Yeah.
But people that have done it have told me that you do feel nervous about about what could happen to you out there. Um,
Yeah.
and but there is definitely potential for confrontations. People have told me about the sorts of things that go down.
Well, let's get into that.
I just
Yeah.
A friend of mine said that someone parked their vehicle over the top of the survey dumpy that this guy wanted to put his peg next to, and he said, "If you don't move your car, I'm going to bang this peg in through the middle of it."
Yeah. It's almost like be careful what you wish for, right? Like because
Yeah,
if you strike hot ground is where there's gold.
yeah,
So
where the ground is where there's competition for it or there's interest in it. There's buzz around it. It's hot
yeah.
ground. Yeah.
And there's a lot of greed, there's a lot of passion that comes out of that, isn't there? That maybe you've got nothing, maybe you've just got a patch of dirt, or maybe you've got the next super pit.
Yeah,
Right.
people call it greed. I don't see it as greed personally. I think most people that are in it, for them, it's just a challenge that just to see if they can strike it rich, um, if they can make a go of it. It's yeah. I don't ever perceive. I mean, generally prospectors are really quite poor, and if you saw, not always, a lot of them do very well. But a lot of them really struggle, and they do it really tough. So yeah, I don't see it as greed. And you might think it's money for nothing, but if you were sitting in Perth and you decided to try and get a gold tenement without spending any money, well,
Good luck. Yeah.
yeah, good luck. You have to drive to Kalgoorlie, and then from there you have to drive to wherever you're going. You have caravan and um, all your equipment and all your GPS equipment and everything else that you need. It's a lot of technical. There's a lot to it. Yeah, a lot more than I
Yeah.
fully appreciate it until I had to start doing a bit of research into it.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'll ask one more question about prospecting because I think it's
Yeah.
fascinating. If anyone's got a question for Lisa, please jump in the chat. And Beck Brown's just given us a great comment. I listened to the audio of this book and it was great.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I haven't listened to the audio, but were you happy with how that went? Because it's very atmospheric and you want to get that
Yeah.
you know.
I make a habit of not listening to anything that I can't do anything about, or reading anything that I can't do anything about. So, for example, if my pitch is in the newspaper, I won't read it because it's there and you can't do anything about it. It's best just not to know.
Okay, it's good boundary.
So, yeah, I mean, I have not listened to the audio, but when people tell me that they liked the choice of narrator, then that just makes me very happy, and I'm happy to accept their word for that. And I'm not going to listen to it because it would just be too stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, is pegging out the ground like this unique to Australia? Because it seems very fair, very egalitarian. Like you said,
Well, yeah,
anyone can.
anyone can do it. Yeah, you're testing my knowledge, but I think I remember from law school that the system was actually the whole regime was actually cobbled together fairly quickly and based on the law that was put in place for the Californian gold rush, apparently.
Oh wow.
So perhaps not unique, but
Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah.
definitely, yeah. Well, Lisa, the hot ground opens with a killing, then it opens with someone going missing, then it
Yeah.
also opens with someone who's extremely pissed off getting off an aeroplane. We've
Yeah.
got Mia Greaves, who is Max Cochrane's daughter.
Yes.
And Detective Jessie Parkin's given, I don't know, a bit of a hospital pass, and that she has to go and pick Mia up, who's had a very big falling out with the detectives and the police in Kalgoorlie. Can you pick up the thread there? What's Jessie like when we meet her, but also what's Mia like? Because both of them are kind of initially at loggerheads.
Yeah. Well, I had Mia's an interesting character because she's somebody who I wasn't sure what her character was going to be, and it just sort of developed itself. I mean, I guess I always thought that she would be a reasonable person, but in the end, she just sort of wound up being someone who just Jessie just never quite gelled with. And it's not that she was unreasonable; she was just a stressed family member, and but that just sort of yeah, that just the way her personality, I really quite liked. She's just a bit kind of a bit of a hard lady, and obviously loved her father, and just has no tolerance for fools. So yeah, she just sort of wrote herself a little bit, that character, and you'd be forgiven for not finding her a likable character, but I think she's fairly realistic in terms of people that are under extreme pressure, as she is.
And to pick the thread of the story, it's Max has gone missing. She's reported that to the police in Kalgoorlie, but not much is being done about it because
Yeah,
prospectors, maybe they've gone bush for a little bit. Maybe they've.
well, that's right. That's the problem. It's always the problem with reporting people missing. You really need to be able to say that they're expected to be somewhere and they're not there. Your intuition is not usually enough to cause a land and sea rescue operation to get launched. So, yeah, Mia had a little bit of a falling out with the police over that, and that's how the detectives wound up getting involved. And Jessie was tasked with trying to smooth over the situation and get Mia to withdraw her threat to complain to which I think she did complain to the commissioner's
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they wanted her to withdraw the threat, so withdraw the complaint. So they just had to sort of deal with it a bit, and it sort of goes from from there. So, probably shouldn't say that about your book, but there you go. I said it.
It's good.
It all just goes from there.
It goes from there. It's the hardest question. So, what's your book about? Oh,
Yeah.
fuck. Well,
I know it's the worst question, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's terrible. Sorry.
And no
Um,
matter how much you practice, you just cannot make it sound even vaguely interesting. But it's actually, you just have to take my word for it. It's a really good book.
for sure. Well, we've got some great questions in the chat. So there's two here. So first from Kerry Firth. So oh, so I'll come to that later. Sorry, Kerry. Gail Falconer's a comment. She's saying, I went to Cal for the first time last year, and I could see it really clearly in the writing.
Oh,
And so could I. When Jesse and Mia first pick each other up, you're right there with them, going through the streets, turning down particular streets. You know this town like the back of your hand, and also
mm.
surrounds. What is it about Kalgoorlie that hooks you, that fascinates you?
Oh, look, I
After
don't know. I've lived there for 25 years. And it's the environment and it's the people. And it's this sense of optimism and hope that pervades there. I absolutely love it. I love running in the bush there. I love the community. It's a real sense of community. Everybody's got your back in Kalgoorlie. Everyone wants you to succeed, and everybody helps each other out in terms of what everyone is trying to achieve out of life. It's just a wonderful place to live and work. It's a great, if anyone's thinking of going, it's just a great place to bring up a family and to have a wonderful life. I just think I love it. And I do love the environment. I love the Great Western Woodlands.
Yeah.
People take some incredibly beautiful pictures of it and they post them freely on the internet all the time. And every single one, I just want to download them all and save them all.
Yeah. Very reminiscent. I mean, have you ever read Joshua Kemp's Banjawan? Like it's set in that area where it's
Yeah,
the Great Western Woodlands, the gimlet trees, the copper,
yeah,
the atmosphere of it.
yeah. They're
Good.
just beautiful. Those hardwoods that are so solid because they're so short on water, I guess, or they're just designed to just be so dense. And yeah, that they're only in, well, I guess some of them exist in other places, but I grew up at Esperance and we didn't have any of those sorts of trees. So yeah, when I'm driving from Esperance up to Kalgoorlie, I just sort of find myself just feeling happy when the trees start to thin out and they start to get those little pom poms at the top, and you start to get into that territory.
Yeah.
Just love it.
That's great. I love how
I prefer to stop at the side of the road and have a wee there than stop at the circle.
it's good.
Yeah.
I liked your description as well, Kalgoorlie, the optimism. It's because it's still got that frontier, it's like always fighting, always pushing, always going.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes and goes in terms of the the mining booms. Gold is often opposite to everything else that's happening in the world. When things are grim, people will turn to gold. And so it can be a little oasis of just positivity and joy, like as it is at the moment with all the concern everyone has for the global situation. And so they're all sinking money into gold. And yeah, so it's just, it does come and go, but I've been through, or I've lived there through, numerous cycles of it. And yeah, I just feel like that sense of optimism never really goes away. And a lot of businesses they stay there throughout all the cycles too. There's, they just when things get a bit quiet, they just sort of, lay off a few people, but keep things ticking over, and then everything fires back up again when things go crazy, which it always does.
Lisa, your first book, Private Prosecution, there are some characters that are a crossover, and I've got a couple of questions here. Speaking of that, because yeah, you're staying in Kalgoorlie, like it's so Kerry first said, love the book. About to read Private Prosecution. What will your next book be about? Will you continue with the same key characters, like for example Jesse and Andrew, And also
Yep.
Jane Jackson saying, I read Private Prosecution after reading Hot Ground and found Jessie Parkin's character different in the second novel to how she was portrayed in the first. Can you talk a bit about how you work on character development across multiple novels? So,
Well, I do like there to be a bit of a character arc. Like I like my characters to develop a little bit. And the first book I felt compelled to write about Andrew, because I just had this idea. The original idea for that was, someone having a one night stand, and then it's a bit old fashioned to call it that. So I think it's a hookup or it could be something different again. I don't know, but having a one night stand, and then winding up, sort of wanting to seek justice for someone who they hardly knew, and that was the initial idea. The character just sort of started to develop himself, and you just start writing, and the character starts to grow. But Andrew grows and develops over that the course of that book. And when I got to the end, I felt like he had his growth, and I didn't have any appetite for trying to write more about him. I've always hated sequels for that reason, because I think that for me, the character growth is a big part of what's interesting about the book and why you engage with the book. This really engaging with the characters and their story and their arc. So yeah, I was sort of done with Andrew, and but everybody loves a sequel, so I just sort of had the idea that maybe I would, pull one of the other characters out and start writing from their perspective, and I pulled out Jessie without really thinking it through. I just, as a lawyer, I was confident I knew everything there was to know about how coppers do their job, but that was a bit of a rude shock for me.
yeah.
Turns out there's a lot to it. So yeah. So yes, Jessie, I think probably I'd be interested to know what your commenter said about, I've forgotten his name, sorry, but what he thought about the change in the character. That's really interesting. But I think probably the change for me came about because I didn't know, I knew very little about how police do their job at the start, and I've learnt a lot since then, and so Jessie's become a bit more competent. It's fair to say.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading a review of Hot Ground on the Reading Matters blog,
Yep.
uh, and there's a line at the end where it says, "And instead of the usual brooding male detective with an eye for the ladies, Ellery gives us a grounded, relatable woman with an eye for the men, a refreshing twist on the genre."
Yeah, that's my favourite line in any review.
That's great. I was like, "Yeah, it's true."
I was
Because
like, "That's right." Sometimes you read these reviews and you realise what it was that you were doing
yeah.
right. But
Well, there's a question that's kind of chiming on that from Gail Falconer. She says, "Would Andrew be a good match for Jesse's lawyer friend?"
oh, it's funny you should say that, because that was
Yeah,
definitely my intention.
yeah, yeah,
It's not so yes, in the third book I am moving again, but I haven't fully settled on a protagonist. But yeah, definitely the the lawyer friend and Andrew, I think, be a great pair. I think
yeah.
they'll be hilarious together.
And that's really interesting. You say you haven't settled on a protagonist because it's like it's not about a particular person, the series you're writing. It's about a town. It's about a community, an environment where different things can happen, where different
Yeah,
people can be the focus of the story. Is
yeah.
that fun or interesting, or does it open up more, or is it just bloody hard to?
Oh no, I really like it. It's much. I think it's, for me, it's much easier than trying to write from the point of view of the same character over and over. It's so hard, you know how hard it is writing generally, but you just kind of you need to feel the magic. And if I'm just writing, oh, this is Andrew's latest adventure, or this is Jesse's latest adventure, it's just, I'm just bored before I've even started. So I want to get into the head of somebody new and
Yeah.
look at it from a different, look at the same universe from a different point of view, if I can.
Yeah, and you're with Fremantle Press. They have a lot of fantastic crime writers. I'm speaking to Alan Carter next month. I've got Karen
Mm.
Herbert coming up,
Ah,
David Wish Wilson to talk about O'Keefe. These are writers who are working in the genre, but constantly shifting around in what they can do
yes,
and
yes, they're all
defining.
very adventurous. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. It's really great. Is it? I don't know. Is there a kind of like crime mafia that you're a part of here, or
Oh, geez, I fantasize I'm part of that group, that
yeah?
that cohort you're talking about there.
Yeah. But
Um,
pushing the boundaries with what's possible. It's
well,
spurring each other on.
absolutely, and you kind of this is definitely something I've observed in the writing of these esteemed authors. Is that, and just generally, that you no longer need to really confine yourself to one point of view. Once upon a time, it was a mortal sin to be alternating between the first person and the third person, for
Yeah.
example. And now it's just quite, everyone's like, well, the first person gives you this sort of intimacy, so you want that, but then you don't have access to everybody, all the information, so you need to just chuck a few third person bits in, and no one stops you. You can just do it, do whatever
Yeah.
you like, whatever's working. So it's a lot of fun to just experiment. And some people just experiment just for the sake of it. I think like Dave Warner is somebody who, he gets a bit bored with writing the same way, so he'll just totally change it up, for a
Yeah.
particular, for change the tense or the point of view or the way that he, I don't even know what you call it, what he does to the language. It's just bizarre, but yeah, just a different take on things, and that is
Yeah.
enjoyable. You don't want to be bored. That's the worst thing, is just boring yourself.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, can you tell us a bit about your life as a lawyer, and is it a solace that you find in literature or a release, or does it actually help you in your legal practice, in your legal work?
Yeah, well, I think it's something that I've always done. You'll be the same. It's you just, I felt compelled to write from as soon as I could write, to write stories. And but I never crossed my mind to try and make writing a career. Or maybe, I think I did toy with being a journalist at one point, but wound up choosing law school. And yeah, so I thought, okay, well, law is my career, so I'll just do that. But yeah, it wasn't until I was in my 40s that it occurred to me to try combining the two. I've just always written for joy, for as a hobby. It's not that it's a release; it's just that it's a compulsion. Really, I just have always done it. And I guess I chase the high that comes from writing something good.
Yeah.
It's just, the one, you're just walking on clouds for days, and you can't engage with anyone because they're keeping you away from your book that you're writing. You just got to get back to it. So
Yeah, you're on hot ground there. Yeah.
yeah, when you're just on fire, so good. So yeah, but I've discovered probably quite a few similarities between what I do in the law and in writing crime, or writing not just the crime. So I actually don't practice in crime, but the style of writing is very similar. So you sort of people think that writing books is all about being flowery with your language and so on, but for the most part, it's about being, careful about your choice of words, making sure what you're writing is saying what you mean, and less is always more. And that is the same for legal writing, exactly the same.
Mm.
So, yeah, the only thing is, when you're writing legally, you need to probably be a little bit more literal. But um, but I think, to me, the plain English you need to have in both. And I've seen some really real comparison, like real. I think probably I did spend a short period as a journalist during my third life crisis,
Yeah.
and and I learned all about how to really pare back my writing so that sentences were shorter, less adjectives, less adverbs. Um, you just say what you mean, and um, and obviously show don't tell is very, that's you don't provide summaries in your in your,
No, it is.
as a journalist of what of your interpretation of things. So I actually found that it improved my writing out of sight, my creative writing, just from spending a short period of time, um, working as a journalist, crossing out every third word as because it was unnecessary, and working out what's really necessary. There's a lot of similarities. And I work in commercial law. I write contracts, so and estate planning, where I write wills. So writing is just a huge part of what I do in law. I'm not on my feet usually, cross-examining witnesses and stuff. I'm writing. That's my area of law. So
Pen
yeah,
is the weapon. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, I'm not trying to test you or put you on the spot, but
No.
would you share some of your writing with us? I think that from the start of Hot Ground is a section you could read for us.
The prologue. So I can do that, but I just have to tell you that I have to. Well, if anyone hasn't read it, sounds like people have read it, which is really marvelous. But if you haven't read it, most of the story is in the present day, but this one's just a little bit different. This bit is a bit different to the rest of the story. So if you don't like this, still read the book, because you might like the rest of it. Anyway, I need my glasses for this. So, okay, prologue. It wasn't until, are you ready for me to read? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he forced the knife into her flesh and between her ribs for the first time that she knew the man was serious. This was it. Damn it. She was 73 years old. A good innings, she supposed the locals, with their inexplicable passion for the English pastime of cricket, would say, even if the idea of being content with 70 years seemed less and less reasonable the closer it came, and positively absurd once it had passed. She was annoyed mostly because her choices had been taken from her, specifically when, and also how. She'd have liked the opportunity to walk into the bush, like they said the Aboriginal people did when the time was right. She didn't know if it was true or not, but that's how Charlie officially came to an end, and she envied him that. She felt she deserved that choice. They'd left influenza-plagued Scotland at the start of the epidemic in 1889, when she thought no life could be harder than the life she and Charlie had shared there. But when they'd arrived on the Western Australian goldfields, she'd been forced to reassess her understanding of what it meant to suffer. Through all those years, 44 in total, of working under the Australian sun until her skin burned and her calluses bled, struggling to secure food, water, medicine, even when there was money for those things, sweating through suffocating summer nights. It felt like such a waste of water, as did crying. And shivering through frosty winters. She always thought Charlie would be the reason, the catalyst for her death. Even after she put him to bed 13 years ago now, she worried someone would find out what had happened to him. But they never did. In the last 3 or 4 years, she'd almost stopped thinking about it. She'd even gone so far as to write down the truth in a letter for Eileen she hoped her daughter would one day return to read. Not that one could really rely upon one's children to not throw out things that were important. But it was happening now, she thought, her arms flailing as she sought the Celtic cross that hung from her neck. Hardly believing it was her own body, she could see convulsing like a snake with its head trapped. It was happening now, before she was ready, and at the hands of this Egypt, what's more. Not because of Charlie, but because the Egypt had decided so. She'd told him not to worry, that she was never going to say anything to the police, but she should have, as it turned out. He withdrew the blade, paused for a moment to flex his muscles, and thrust the knife back into her. Go to hell, she thought, but couldn't say to him, mute as a snake too. He'd probably burn the house down once he was finished with all this stabbing, and no one would ever read her letter. Charlie never had these kinds of problems. She'd never been sure that she believed in fate. But in the second and a half before he plunged the blade into her for the third and last time, striking a rib before glancing off and into the right ventricle of her heart, she wondered about that. She would die at 73. Now that it had happened, did that mean it was always going to happen? It must do, surely. They were always going to be her numbers, the numbers everyone was reduced to in the end. Date of birth, date of death. The entirety of a life, her life, collapsing like a dying star into the dash between them. She just didn't know it until now. Those two sets of numbers were all she'd ever be, all she ever was. Those and a name. And of course, depending on when Sergeant Trafford found her mangled old carcass, if he did at all, it seemed likely not one of the three would even be accurate. There you go.
Nice.
Now, I'll tell you a funny story about this, just very briefly. The whole process is about the writing process, I guess. I gave this story to a friend of mine in Kalgoorlie because he's an expert in trucks, and there's lots of trucks and stuff in there. So I wanted him to read it, and he knows a bit about prospecting as well. So I wanted him to read it and just see if he spotted any errors. And he's a very, very busy man, so I wasn't expecting too much. But he read this first part, and he rang me from his car as he's driving around between meetings, and he says, "Oh, I love what you say about the numbers at the start. It's really good. But what you need to do is you need to have the dash. It's about the dash in between them, because the dash represents life, like a whole life, like it's just a dash." And because I didn't have this in the first draft.
Oh,
I
wow.
just had the two. I'd only had the idea. I'd had the idea that's you were only two numbers and that's it. And I thought, oh, you know what? I said, that's great. Thanks very much. But I thought, I actually like that. I think I like it. So I thought about how am I going to do this? So in the end, I said, the entirety of a life, her life, collapsing like a dying star into the dash between them. So it's a short sentence, but it took me bloody ages to come up with the idea of, because I was thinking about implosions, like a life imploding, like a black hole where it all goes into just this little dash, and then well, I guess the dying star is a black hole, isn't it? But yes, in the end, I left the word imploding, and I went with collapsing like a dying star into the dash.
That's beautiful.
I liked it.
I like
But bloody
that.
would have taken me, people ask how much money is there in writing books. That would have taken me probably, I don't know, in grand total of half a day to come up with that sentence.
Yeah. But that's gold. I love how that came about. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
meant to give you advice on trucks, and here he is, like, sparking all the poetry. That's fantastic.
yeah. It was really funny. This bloody, this guy just, he'd obviously given it some thought too, and he'd had this idea, and I was able to run with it and put it in the story. I put there's so much in this story, there's so many bits and pieces from people that I know.
I was going to say as well, like, just you reading that now, I'm like, oh, there's all the hooks that you put in. That's what the that yeah. Like there's some good herrings in there, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of hooks in here. That's the other thing about hot ground. Throughout, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of things going on, and red herring's not quite the word, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like there's so much atmosphere and so much mystery and so much that you don't know, and it's quite confusing. But there's always Jesse's always there trying to sort things out and get us through. Was it
yeah,
fun to create that much? I don't know, like fog of war.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's uh,
not an
it
easy
was
mission.
it was not easy. It was unavoidable because once I start on one of these convoluted plots, they just make themselves more and more and more convoluted, and I just have to, like, you have to wade into it and wade through it before you can get out the other side. And I envy people that have these nice simple plots, and I think I don't know how you do it because
Does that maybe come from law where like you are relying on people telling the truth, on certain things being found where there's always an element of doubt where you're constantly dealing with things that you know and can control, but also not. So it's pretty rare to have a really
yeah.
clear cut case.
Well, exactly. And I did want it to be realistic. So, I wanted Jesse to be having that experience, which is exactly as you say, where you're wading into the unknown, and there is so much detail, there is so much information that you have to decide as a police officer. You have to decide what rabbits you're going to chase down what holes, because you can't follow every lead, that every possibility. It's just physically impossible. So that's real life. So I wanted it to be as realistic as possible. That was very much my goal, because I thought, you know, if I can't bring realism, what can I bring? I want people to at least know that if they read my book, they might get an insight into something that's real that they didn't know about. So it is, it was unavoidable, but I also wanted to say it was very challenging for me too. Like, people, a plot like that, and all the twists and turns and things that go on, and all the things that happen, you've got to try and keep track of of everything and make sure it all makes sense, so you're not got plot holes, or logical errors, logical inconsistencies. There's no way that could have happened because that happened, and blah blah blah. So, and people talk about, oh yeah, you have it. Karen, who you mentioned, she has it in a spreadsheet. She reckons she has all her ideas in a spreadsheet. Her whole book, is like, she's a numbers person, obviously, but as well as being a brilliant writer. But there's no way I could be using Excel spreadsheet for that job. For me, I had to keep it in my head to keep track of everything, and that makes me sound really brainy. But I got to say, it was the stretched myself to the absolute limit of my intelligence to try and keep that plot in my head and then bring it all back down onto the page in the end without making any errors.
In
I
a
hope I
way,
haven't made any errors.
well, in a way, is that the pleasure of the process for you, but
Oh
also
yeah,
the
yeah,
pleasure of
so
reading?
rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. But reading a procedural, that's the pleasure too, having the
Mm.
procedure, having that detail.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to toss all those balls in the air and then catch them all one by one as the story unfolds. I really enjoy that process, and I find it really rewarding to get it right.
And,
Stressful, but
uh,
it's just such a great challenge.
Lisa, there are prospectors that have gone missing over the years.
Mm.
Were there any real life things that inspired you, or are there mysteries that intrigue you around Kalgoorlie? Because I'm just thinking like there's people down mine shafts here. Thinking there's a couple of pubs in Kalgoorlie where you can stand and you can look down into a mine shaft. They're sort of
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
their mine shafts are absolutely everywhere, and people are often missing people are often presumed to be in them, and sometimes they're found in them. Um, it's it was there wasn't any there's just so many of them. This why it's considered to be a good way to get rid of a body, because there's just so many. That there's just no way that they could all be effectively searched. It's just not possible. So yeah, there was no particular story that inspired me. I just thought, it's Kalgoorlie. There's got to be a mine shaft. It's got to happen. Like, I didn't want to. I wanted to be adventurous and write something new, but I don't want to break the rules.
That's all right. Well, somehow we've got 10 minutes left. I don't know how that happened. This always happens. Yeah. So please, if anyone's got some final questions for Lisa, please jump in the chat. And I've got a great one here. A comment here from Kerry. Kerry Firth. I can see this book being made into a TV series. Have you had it?
Cool. Yeah.
And if so, who would you have playing everybody?
Oh,
Wish list.
This is like the absolute, like, the most joyous thing that can happen to an author is sitting with your mates, having a glass of wine, and fantasizing about who's going to play who in your book when they make it into a movie. It's just so rewarding. I had this conversation with my friends when we were running the Christmas Island Marathon. Christmas Island Marathon. I was running the half marathon, but they did the marathon.
Yeah.
And we were all just sitting around, like, tossing names around. Oh yeah, nah, she'd be good. And I was like, oh my God, this is a bigger high than running a marathon. But yeah, look, I don't know. The best idea I could come up with is I really liked. I know it's a bit cliched, but I really liked Margot Robbie for Jessie, but can't have her because I think she'll be too old by the time they make this thing into a. She is ageless to look at. She might be able to do it, but I'm tempted to, like, send her a copy and just say, "Oh, Margot," because she's a producer and everything. And say, "I'm just wondering if you're interested in reading my book."
Yeah, read this and come
Send her give her a copy of the audio too, just in case she can't be asked reading it. Yeah.
Sweet.
I don't know. Can you see her as Jessie? I really can.
I can. Yeah.
She'd be fantastic. But but who else? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, have you got any ideas?
Well, this is the thing. They don't have to be like, because it can be fair. Yeah, I was thinking Max Cochrane, Jack Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Probably a little old now, but yeah, just that sort of
Yeah. Everyone gets too old while your movie's getting made.
Yeah, true.
I'd love to find a part for Hugh Jackman just because I love him so much.
Claudia Carvin, Mia Green.
No, I was going to say Claudia Carvin for Tony. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely. I visualize her as being practically the same person. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Look, as an aside as well, you mentioned running. You run in the bush. You just did a half marathon. Do you like to think about, or do you get amazing ideas when you are running, and then that makes you run faster to get back to the computer?
I try not to think about it when I'm running or walking if I don't have something to write down things with, because otherwise you think all these or driving's another one, because you think all these fabulous things, and then by the time you get back the computer or to the phone to write, it's gone. That unless it's just so brilliant that you just insist on repeating it over and over and over and over and over until you get to a pen and a piece of paper. But I definitely like to avoid doing that. And I don't really, when I'm running, I think mostly about breathing and about moving. And that's what I like the most about running, is just, getting out of your head, getting into your body. It's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's good.
Very corporeal experience.
No, I like that. Get out of your head, get into your body.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, how's it been having book 2? I mean, when did Hot Ground come out? It's
September it came out. So now it's like when you run your second marathon, you can really call yourself a marathon runner. But it's a great feeling, and the best feeling is just knowing that you're not a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, there you go.
Gives you a lot of confidence to have another crack for the third, you're just like, yeah, I can't fail now.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
Yeah.
on fire.
What did you do for book two? Did you have a launch? What was your thing? Or did you have a party? What did you do?
I had um, an epic series of book launches.
Nice.
It was like Johnny Farnham's last tour.
I swear it's the last time. Yeah, yeah.
It was absolutely huge. So I think I started with the book launch in Perth, and then which was fabulous, and then which was I think at the library in Subiaco, and then I had a party in Kalgoorlie. I think the next weekend, with whole bunch of people turned up to that too. And then I had a party in Esperance, which is my hometown, and heaps of people turned up to that too. So I was feeling very pleased with myself
Yeah,
throughout that whole festival of Lisa. It was
yeah.
great.
Well, I wanted to ask because I love reading the acknowledgements, and
Oh yeah,
you've got so many people to thank. There
yeah,
are a lot of people that you consulted with because yeah, there's a lot of facts here, but also just getting the vibe right, isn't it? It's
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that getting the vibe right's really the hardest bit, I think, because it needs to look effortless. You know, I sort of, I know, I certainly did not know all these facts before I started this book. So this is not just me churning my knowledge out onto the page. I did an enormous amount of research to get all the facts right, and the research that I did was, you know, as you know, you try to do it on Google and Wikipedia, and it's just phenomenal how little information, useful information there is on Google. And I quickly discovered that the best way to get what I needed was to talk to people. So it was just a wonderful excuse to actually, especially because I already had a book published, so it wasn't like I was just, people going to go, what? I'm not wasting my time.
yeah,
They
right.
knew I was the proper author. So
You're dead.
I could actually contact people that I knew of but didn't really know all that well, and bail them up and ask them questions. And I found that people whose area of expertise you're writing about, they know the answers off the top of their heads really, really easily. And in the course of giving it to you, 99% of the time they will give you some awesome lingo that you can use as well. And so you go, um,
Yeah.
you go, oh, just take it back. You said blah blah blah, and they go, oh yeah, that just means blah, and you go, oh, I would never, like, that
Yeah,
doesn't appear in Google.
yeah, no, yeah.
So sort of chucking that in was just a source of great joy as well, to and just try, and even though a lot of it is not necessarily my first-hand knowledge, um, it was, I talked to people, and I feel very hopeful that I managed to convey, um, yeah, a lot of that information in a without any errors, without getting the facts wrong, but also in a way that seems familiar, I hope.
Well, Lisa, congratulations on Hot Ground. It's an absolute
Thank you.
cracker of a read. Thank you very
Oh,
much. I
thank you.
wrestled it off my mother-in-law several times. So
Oh, really?
no, yeah, I was like, give it back. But no, thank you very much for coming onto Libby Reads. It was great to have you as our first guest for the year. I'm absolutely stoked. And please, if we can get you back for book three, I'd absolutely love that. That'd be
Oh,
fun.
hopefully that won't take me another 4 years to get my act
No
together.
pressure.
But thank you very much. I'd love to come back, and thanks so much for reading it. Thank you for reading Private Prosecution as you did when that first came out too.
You and I think our books came out pretty much the same.
Same time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was
I
great.
think, yeah, it was, and I read yours at that time. I read yours at that time, and then when you said you'd read mine, I remember being really surprised. That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Okay, great book, but no, and thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. And we do have a signed copy to give away. And I reckon Kerry Firth, thank you for all of your comments tonight. Sparked a lot of great conversation. So Kerry, I'm just going to put my email in the chat. and just email me and I will put you into contact with the good folks at Libby and we'll get a signed copy of Hot Ground out to you. Uh, I've got Alan Carter coming up for next month's Libby Reads. And then after that, we've got The Ghost Walk with Karen Herbert. So
They're both fantastic books. That's
fantastic books. Yeah.
yeah.
All these great Free Press authors. It's great. It's great to
They're
have
brilliant.
on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much for staying up tonight with us. Thank you also to Julianne over in Melbourne, who's stayed up till I think it's 11:30 there now. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's joined us. Great to have your company here on Libby Reads. We're here every month. It's free. It's fantastic. You can ask authors anything you like about the fantastic books they're writing, and it's great to have you as part of this reading community. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Ah, that's magic.